Okay, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off, but Phil, you always get here first anyway. You've got questions to begin, so let's start there. And Paula will be our wonderful resource.
Yeah.
To see the surprised look on her face.
You're the resource. I'm the questioner with Phil. Me and Phil are in the same boat together. I'm not
Okay.
sure where Olga is on it, but
As you start to dive down this path and you start finding the people and getting different information, but people throw around this term that we're all connected. They throw it out like we all just assume exactly what that means. Like what exactly does that mean? How are we all connected? And the only explanation that I can come up with, or the definition, is it's just we're all connected because it's all mental. It's all coming from one source and it's all projected mentally. Like that's the only way that I can kind of wrap my head around that we're all connected. I don't know. I think that's just something that I just don't fully understand, but yet everyone, they throw it around like you should kind of understand that by now. And do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty common. People bring that up.
Do you want to respond, Paula?
the only thing I can do is respond with the experiences I've had. A couple of experiences I've had, like when you say all connected, you mean all human beings, all plant and trees and all that, you mean?
Everything,
Unity.
like
Yeah.
it all, unity consciousness and
Unity consciousness. I'm with you on that because, and I've talked about this before. It sounds all fluffy and nice, like, oh, we're all connected. But you know what? That means we're all connected with all the bad stuff too, aren't we? That means everything. And I've had a unique experience. I've been kind of on the path where doing some fasting and breatharian work. One time I had a situation where I was fasting, not only food, but water for 3 days. I did it for 3 days.
Wow.
Now I prepared for it moving up to that, and I was doing some research, and it was a lot of meditation during that time. So, but I'll tell you what, at the end of the 3rd day, I was feeling good. But here's a weird thing. I was getting prepared to get some juices and some things to come off the fasting. I went into the grocery store, Phil, and as soon as you walk into my grocery store, you head right to the produce department. Here's a weird thing that happened, and I can say it now because I'm more comfortable, but I didn't tell anybody for a long time. I was walking by some fruits. No, I'm sorry. These were vegetables that were pre-cut. You know how sometimes they pre-cut them for you, and they were sitting in cellophane. I could feel the vegetables suffocating in the cellophane. It was weird. I said, oh, this isn't normal. I better get off this fast. But I could feel the feelings of the vegetables. And then the ones that were out in the open were like almost happy. So I felt it in that way.
Yeah.
Also, so I don't know what you have to think about that, but I haven't felt that since, but that was a weird feeling. And then a second situation I had was where I was writing. I'm writing a book and I'm editing it now. But I said, if we're all united, what dark place do you have to go to say I'm also united to what? What's the worst thing? When everybody wants to throw something out, who is they throw under the bus as the worst character in the world? Hitler.
Putin.
So I said, okay. I said in some what do you say? Affirmations. If I am unity with all, I'm also united with Hitler, right? And I said, well, let me get into the mind of Hitler. Nobody wants to go there. You want to be as far away from, you want to be Jesus, don't you? Reincarnated, but here I am. I'm going to go Hitler. And I went in and tried to get into the situation of Hitler. And I'll be honest with you, what opened up to me was how Hitler became so powerful. It turns out Turns out you need a village to become Hitler. You can't do it by yourself. And I uncovered evidence where a lot of the people from the United States, including Ford and Chrysler, supported Hitler. They were right in on it. And this is all public knowledge, but it was something we don't acknowledge, or, it's not put in our books. And I said, wow, when I decide that I'm going to be united with all, I see where I'm connected to. I had a Ford car, I had a BMW. They were all involved with it. So when you go there, you have a deeper understanding. So yes, we are all united in strange ways. And when you agree to that, Spirit will show you how we're all united, like that. But I get it. When, you have to put the unity thing to the test. You have to say, if we're all united, you better show me, right? I want the evidence of it. I'm not just going to say it because it sounds pretty, So those are my two experiences. Plus, then when I do mediumship readings, you do blend with a person's soul to get evidence about them, which is kind of freaky for people to experience that. And then you also unite with ones that have passed to the spirit world, which is also freaky to people when you get evidence on that. So that's been my only experience, because I'm with you on that. If you say that, you got to show me the Missouri state.
That's the 3D part of us. That's a lofty goal to try and understand what that really means in essence, to say that we're all connected, because the electromagnetic part of us is connected to all sentient life, all of it. But that's a big ask to have people really comprehend what that means in our little 3D, perceptions. We're all given all these labels and all these boxes that we fit into until, people point at the box that you're supposed to fit into and say you don't fit into. Well, excuse me, I should be the one that defines that. And so when you finally push back like that, that's your sovereignty playing back. You're going, wait a minute, no one defines me except me. And I have contributions to make just like everybody else, but I have to see it from an elevated perspective in order for me to appreciate what's going on here. And as Paul pointed out, the task and the lessons we learned here we have to get those into context, and we can't get context without duality. So we get perspective. Got to learn the lousy stuff of being here so we can appreciate the good stuff. But in the end, it's all about balance, and you get it all. Your job to bring back those lessons and report on what it was, that's a hard thing to do when you sit in this little biosuit and try and figure it out from a human perspective. It takes a real elevated focus to hang on to that idea that we are all connected to one another. So when you think of things like that, and Hitler, and every instance, I'm listening to talking heads on the TV this morning, which I'm not political at all, and I don't take sides, so I don't let that dialogue charge me. But there are some networks out there that's what they're doing, that they know what they're doing. But when I see those talking heads, there's a part of me in them. I know it. So, they're playing out their own lessons and making their contributions just like everybody else. Who am I to say what they're here to do and what they should be doing? It's not my place to say that. So I don't understand their journey, not mine to figure out. But how do you really let that settle in? You just have to get used to seeing things from that perspective. And that's a tall get, because each individual has to come to terms with that. Then you'll really understand what being connected to everybody else is. And when you look at somebody that doesn't agree with you, you still think, oh, wait a minute, there's still room for them to understand this. But we're still stuck in trying to understand things with what we have in our mind. Some of us have the ability to step beyond that and see things from a higher perspective and understand that we're connected. And when we say that, we see things from that place. I know Phil originated with the question, but he asked the question because he felt that and he knew that. So inherently, the idea of connectivity, yeah, it's nested in there somewhere. You're looking for clarity like the rest of us. I definitely see things from a higher perspective all the time. But that's my job now. I get to be an observer, and I don't need to agree with it. In fact, I'm supposed to allow it. If I agree with the idea we're all sentient beings making our contributions, again, not my job to figure out what your journey is or direct you in any way. I will benefit in the future. Collectively, as part of that effort, when we get to higher places, all the things that you're learning, good and bad, are all going to be tucked away for the rest of us to share. So, as I say always, thank you for the lousy lessons you learned, and you're welcome for the ones I had to spend. So, you had a second question there, buddy?
Well, I love being able to look at someone and being able to see or identify your judgments within you, and to be able to recognize these guys are on their own path. I'm not here, maybe I'll influence them one way or another, but they're making the choices and living the life the way that they decide. And it's nice, so I don't get so emotionally in charge with someone's doing or behaving in ways that I disagree with. My dad, I use that as an example quite a bit, but the other two things is Earth is conscious and the universe is within you. So that's like pretty, those are the other two things that they throw around, and it's like the universe is within you. So the only thing I can wrap my 3D mind around is that I'm projecting everything outside from me. It all comes from within. And then like, so if Earth is conscious, and then all planets actually or all or most have some level of consciousness to them, those are some of the terms that just get thrown around a lot, and I don't quite understand.
Just sit with it, and over time it'll assimilate. It'll either resonate with you, but it doesn't. But it came across your path for a purpose. Now, I think that you're reaching for greater understanding of things that were kind of beyond us too, because here's evidence of those kind of questions, because they're pretty deep. But however, they're not any less true. And so they're looking for clarity. So that's great. And, we pulled a tribe together, and, here's some thoughts that I have, and maybe we can expound on it, and someone's going to add a little piece of the puzzle, maybe a key to knowledge I already had that I just needed them to kind of say whatever word it was. Because where I stand on all of this. All of that information that we are relearning is nothing new to us. It's just being revealed to us, what we've known all along. And it's a gift that you're here to help provide, because no one else has this information. No one else walked your journey, and no one else learned your lessons. So we need you now. But I say that to every sentient being on the planet now. We need you now. We need you all to understand what your mastery is, because regardless of how we were marched through school to learn all the same things, we were never those beings. We had individual gifts that the universe is waiting for us to discover and play out when the time comes. If they're associated with Earth's shift in consciousness whatsoever, telling you the clock is ticking.
I've seen that concept that universe is within us, and when I was recently reading about microbiome and all the processes that going on in our bodies and the complexity of all the processes, I've been thinking that maybe this is what is being referred to, that we are, our complexity of our body, all the processes and chemistry and like living sort of like microbes, like there are millions and billions of them living within us, and on Earth in the same, if we scale in the same way, like we are like microbes basically living on Earth, size-wise. And I was thinking in this way that maybe this is what is being referred to. And there is another saying that our body is a temple. I've been also thinking about that for many years, about what does it mean that your body is a temple. But yes, so all we do, how we behave, what we think, what we eat, so we maintain a well-being of that chemistry factory or the body or the temple, it's like there are different names to name it. That's what I've been thinking about when like we are saying that the universe is within us. And about the question about that we all one and we influence each other. Once I've seen an example that about this situation, when you throw a pebble in the water, there are waves going around that pebble, and then you throw another one and you throw another one, and they all produce waves around them, and then they all interfere and influence each other, and in the same way. So we all produce, when we think about things in a positive or a negative way, so we produce the certain frequencies, and it influences people around us. So we want it or we don't want it, so consciously or subconsciously. And that's why the prayers on a violet flame and the blue light, like let's say if we imagine the blue light around our family, around us, our family, around the city, neighborhood, and this whole earth, that's how it influences. So that's how we spread our frequency. So and someone else joined, and someone else joins, and this is how collective consciousness is being like supported. Mm-hmm. And yes, I read somewhere else about that Hitler thing, that so it was actually somewhere in Telos books, that it was the result of human consciousness at the time.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Yeah,
they were susceptible to that. We were susceptible to that back then. We hadn't really understood that kind of phenomenon before. And so here was another way that separation was going to be introduced. And it wasn't until I went back and started to read this document we all been trying to understand, that in the middle of it, it declared that this was purposeful, that Spirit had an idea in mind, and that the idea of separation in this particular density was supposed to lead us back to unity. That is what this purpose is. That's what this journey is. So just about the time that Earth's consciousness is going to rise to a higher vibration, so are we. We're all being prepared for that. Your gifts are going to be restored to you in an environment where you're no longer experimenting. But remember this one thing, when we talk about how we fit into this fiber of things, you were originally, your soul, that immoral part of you that just keeps refreshing into different incarnations, was a spark of source. Exactly. That part of the universe that you think that you're a part of, you were that. You just placed it in your soul, and now you're carrying it in this particular biosuit in this incarnation. You already know you've had many of these before, and we're struggling to get back access to that. Well, where we are, our human capabilities in this density allows for very few people to see beyond this without focusing on it. I'm proof, Paula's proof, Phil's proof, Olga's proof, that we can connect to higher things when we focus our attention on it. But we weren't trained through any of that. Now, maybe some of it was intentional to kind of keep us along a path. And, there's certainly some things they discovered that when they can instill fear, they can actually influence people. I'm not saying control them. That may be their overall objective, but yeah, they can influence people when they do that. And now you've seen the extremes that the earth lives through. You have to really tune out all that white noise in order to hold your own space to get where we're going, because it's distractive as hell, and it's meant to be. Whatever entities were placed in the path that still are cyclical as well, that have really been more in charge of navigating our destiny as humanity, look where we are. Those energies were the ones that influenced us and got to where we are. I still believe to this day that the vast majority of the consciousness on the planet all is benevolent and looking for the wonderful place we're going next. It doesn't take but a small minority of loud, angry, and upset to make a big impact. We still need to be mindful, in my opinion, that that's still a fraction. and there's still hope, but they're the loudest ones. And so you really can't force but to be ignored. And when we tend to just believe the things we hear and the things that we read, we still haven't learned the lessons that a lot of that may not resonate with you. If you stop taking it for what it says on the page and ingest that into my truth, you need to really sit with it. Of all times now, your discernment is of great value to you now. And your intuition will tell you the right thing, and it's always your first reflex. That's what I've come to understand. But there's still a lot of people wandering around that aren't even capable of having this conversation. They're still, walking around like the rest of us did, clueless to access to higher things that's here now. And when we do, I just want everyone to understand it. Yeah, even people who had negative impulses, that realm no longer exists where we're going. We're going to experience duality, but collectively, we love to fix things. And so that's where our focus goes in the next realm. We're there to finish clearing our karma, which is why we don't spend much time in the fourth realm, because we're fifth dimensional beings. Been there before already, but humanity's never been there unaltered. The last time we were here is when DNA kind of got manipulated. So really, humanity has never really been in a place to see and explore exactly what we're capable of without manipulation, but that's what's taking place now. The light codes that we're getting now, gang, is repairing all that damaged DNA, manipulated, however you want to look at it, and being replaced with stuff that will bring back our original human design. However, it's coming with an upgrade because the type of light that we're now taking in is of a wider spectrum. And it's feeding every sentient being. It's the part that's pushing Earth into her next place. And every sentient being that vibrates with it, understands it, will go the same way. I think it's more the reason why we begin to feel more palpably, all of us empaths, we feel these energies when the sun's coming on. I no longer have to look online to see, what kind of solar influence we've got. I can feel when the wind's hitting us. And I can feel when we've had an M-class flare that kind of came in our direction. It feels energetically like a focus, but that's just appreciating this ethereal band around me. That sixth sense, it's fully alive. Man, if people really plugged into it, they'd feel exactly the same things because we're all built the same way. It's just focus. Well, somebody's got an observation.
Well, I have a question about the golden tie allotments. And so in reading it, there is the places that are going to be, they call them safe zones, right? I think they mention it as that. But then is it true that there's also other places that people that are tuned into their guidance and their intuition, other places on the planet that you could also be guided to that would be considered safe zones or a place to go for whatever purpose is next?
It did indicate that there were other places other than those that were listed. And I don't know that it would be fair to say that everyone's going to be drawn to these for reasons that they don't understand, because a lot of us are already aware. And now that we have some documentation to kind of fill in the gaps on the information we had about, this period of passing, it was really helpful. And there's no coincidence. It's timely as hell, because now we feel the vibrations coming in. We have a greater understanding for what's happening that science never helped us. I think there's evidence now that there's more metaphysical influence or allowances in science than there was before. But remember, all science has been supported by research dollars that came from somewhere. And you've got to understand that that narrative is going to be crafted by those that paid for the information, and they're going to spin it in the way they'd like you to understand it. Is it always factual? Well, we know that we haven't really been fed all the information as factual as it was when they chose to be transparent about it at all.
Yeah, and you can spin information any way you want. You can spin statistical analysis whatever way you want, you know, depending on your motivation. Also, I think it mentioned something like 40% of the population. Did you see that number somewhere?
Yeah, that resonates with me. I believe that 40% of the total population here is awake and getting it. That's not to say that that's all that will be when we get to this period where, you know, there's enough vibration rise that we all kind of kick into the next level. I understand that there's more coming, because as you and I know, we've heard from people that are still getting it and they're fresh. Somebody had told me that 2 months ago they finally had this and found me, and just they need some answers. So I see results of people that are still getting it and waking up. I think that that's still evidence of, you know, whatever benevolent beings are around just trying to assist us to get it. They're taking every opportunity they can to do that. They're going to reach out every way that they can, and hopefully people are open and aware. You will just see. I hope for that. I hope that they get it. But Earth's consciousness is not contingent on the rest of us all kumbayaing together. But it was helpful and heartwarming to see that even the people that didn't get it, that lived out this incarnation until the very end, they still have an opportunity. That I don't know how, because you can't fake your vibration, but apparently in this last little window, you have a choice to either ascend with the rest of us or, you know, play out 3D lessons somewhere else. That's a little bit of a puzzle to me.
Right. Because sometimes it's difficult for me to discern what it is that would be a vibration. I mean, I understand that there's people that are very kind and good and genuine, authentic. And of course, they would be people that would be of the right vibration. I think of like, okay, so like I have grown children. How do I know that my kids are in the right vibration? I mean, they're good people, but they don't necessarily they don't resonate at all with what I'm talking about, but they have good ethical qualities and they're caring. And would you agree that maybe that as things start to deteriorate, like I know how people behave, and when things deteriorate, oh, sorry, I got people coming up. As things deteriorate, people become more open to things. Does that make sense? Like after 9/11 happened, people shifted very quickly from one paradigm to the next. They made a quick change with their belief system, like because an event occurred where they got new evidence about how reality was. Mm-hmm. So many times with a cataclysm, usually it's negative, unfortunately, people change over. So would you say that possibly at that time, people that weren't in a belief system would be like, oh, well, this happened, now I believe. And that would
perhaps. And I hope for that. That's a really good observation. And I hope other people hear that to kind of put that into perspective. All I have to offer with our children, because I have a son and a daughter, and you know, I think about those things too. As a human parent, it's only natural for us and the nurturing side of us to care for our loved ones and what's going to happen with them. Having said that, they're sentient beings who made their choices for this journey they're on as well, doing their own lessons. Your children chose you, Paula, as part of the makeup when they came here, just like I chose my parents in that scenario when I came here, so did they. So as much as we hope for it, I wish I can, but if I respect their sovereignty, all I can do is just send them love and light and allow them to continue to learn the lessons I will benefit from in the long run too. It's hard though to watch in this density when, you know, your friends and your family are in that place where they can't see the things you know now, and we hope that they do. So then it's a matter of their openness.
Well, I thought it was funny. I think I watched I don't know if it was a podcast. My first son's name is Alex too. So I thought maybe they know my Alex. The way that they know your Alex.
You know, they know them all. They know everybody. Their souls were not immune to any of this. And I have to believe that unless they're totally clueless, which I don't think that they are, that they chose this incarnation for this time as well. That's the space I'm going to continue to hold on to for those people that are kind and loving and benevolent and compassionate. They're already vibrating where they need to be. They may not know the reality is the dimensionality of the way that you and I do and appreciate it. And, you know, we're continuing to understand it more so when the opportunity to actually have these conversations with them, will be prepared and be in a place where we can speak intelligently about the things that we had trouble putting words to as well.
Thank you. I feel more clear and better about that now.
Here's the higher perspective that we kind of alluded to at first when, you know, Phil had tossed out the question of, you know, how are we all connected? When you start to see things from that higher perspective, and that takes a lot of things for granted. It takes for granted by me first that you believe in the idea of reincarnation first. Because if you don't believe in that, then we're not going to go anywhere with where I want to lead you and what I've come to conclude. Because if you believe in reincarnations, then to put your finger on the fact that you've had multiple previous lives, and think of just this lifetime you've been here and all the things that you've learned and accomplished along the way. You've done that many times, and you haven't done the same thing over, except for lessons you haven't learned, because yes, you do repeat those. But that's your contribution. That's the part I wish that there was more widespread, whatever the trigger is, whatever came my way that made me wake up to the idea of there are greater dimensions around us and you can actually experience them. If I knew what that trigger was for everybody else, that would really make my day. As it is right now, I get to observe when it happens, but I can't influence, and nor after my speech am I supposed to. I'm just supposed to allow to let everyone else play their lessons out. That must be quiet because we're all thinking through. Yeah, it's higher dimension things is a training you need to get your mind into, because it's easy to just take in all the third dimensional crap around you and compare where your head is to that particular moment. I don't do that anymore. I've had conversations with some close people to me that have gifts and they're getting it, but I see the illustration like Paul threw out with Hitler, and I don't want to keep berating that, and I'm not feeding that energy, but I'm not afraid to see the dark side of things because I also know the other side. And I understand what kind of light is coming our way and what power to transmute negative energy into light we're about to inherit and actually be able to manipulate. It's right around the corner. I'm still waiting for the day that I get to manipulate and move energy, but I'm told I can do it. If I can, so can others. Okay, well, God, guys, I'm not quite sure where we're going today. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I just unmuted. Yeah. I don't have anything to contribute.
All right.
Sorry.
It's kind of a strange day. Go ahead, Paula.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, we may cut this one short today. What's in the back of my mind, And even over the weekend, I got a chance to talk to Yaya. And I hadn't talked to her since she got back from Egypt. And then I found out what happened while she was there. And it wasn't a good trip, and it wasn't pleasant. And really, she didn't get out of it what she wanted to. So she had a lot of kind of settling that she needed to do, not just for me, she just backed off from everything and everybody. And her guides pretty much told her to just compress for a little bit. Well, she's finally coming out of that and got caught up. I miss Cindy's contributions. Yaya. I need to start calling her Yaya and not so much Cindy, to respect where she is. But she's my framework now for, I know she brings me clarity when I didn't understand it. When the idea that a higher being wanted to embody himself within me, I didn't understand what that meant. Was it that they take over your body? Do they take over your soul? Yeah, I didn't understand. Do I share space with them? I have a much better idea now. And it was Cindy who was wandered down this for a while, a few years now. She's been my touchstone to understand what the hell this means and what it is. And when she repeated the other day, because I kept thinking, well, where does Lowell play out in all of this? You know, who is he while all this is taking place? She says, never forget, that's who you are. You don't give yourself enough credit, nor do you, on who we really are, because we've taken in so much information from somewhere else that's our frame of authority, that it came from somewhere else. Guys, we are all special beings, Thoth level beings, with those kind of gifts and abilities that are being restored to us now. But there's something special about myself that I had to come back to and appreciate within the last few days that I didn't. I didn't think I was more special than anybody else, but I've got some gifts and I've had some experiences that others have not. And when the ruler was tossed around that I was chosen, it was uncomfortable for me to hear those words. Why am I so different from everybody else? Because I didn't want that. Well, now I understand what that is. And there were going to be some things that I would help people lead themselves to, not change anybody's opinion, but I'll be here when others have questions about what's going on inside of them to be able to answer them for them. Can't tell you about your own journeys, nor do I want to. I'm going to encourage you to continue to walk what you're doing because there's a purpose behind it. So it gave me a different opportunity. And I had a channeling last night when I went to bed. And, you know, it's still hard to say that Thoth and I have these conversations, but it's him behind the downloads I'm getting. I've heard from a couple entities that there's some negative connotation to Thoth, and I don't understand it. This guy did nothing but provide us with wisdom and knowledge. But regardless, I know what I get out of it. And he's here to assist the planet. What wisdom he's sharing is meant for everybody. I don't understand the dark side of that at all. So I ignore that and I'll continue to take it and dispense it. But that was when I got this idea, he wasn't taking control. There have been some instances where he's come through and it's kind of like I get pushed aside. Here he comes. It's like a collaboration, but I had to learn that. And it wasn't until I got to talk to Cindy again, when after it happens a few times, you know, how do I handle this? What does it mean? And there was an instance that I'll mention here at the end where Cindy and I, Yaya and I, were doing some of these transmissions. And the last one we did together with a group, it just felt awkward from me from the beginning. I am never late for a Zoom conference ever, but something went wrong that day. And I was late. When I got in the session, it kind of got handed over to me. And I felt like, okay, I didn't know what to do. And you've seen me in these conversations before. What comes out is authentic and it just flows. That day, it did not. And it was awkward. and people sensed that there was some other kind of energy to it that was offsetting. They mentioned it to her after. And it wasn't that I wasn't aware of it, I just didn't understand it. Well, when we talked, was it yesterday or the day before? We had kind of reviewed that again. And she said, I just want you to understand the perspective. I don't think that there was anything inside of you in particular that was coming out the way that it did. And I said, say no more. It just, nothing felt, it was all awkward to me and it didn't feel right. She said, well, remember the transmission we had before when it was you and I and, you know, your embodiment took place. You said you were open to everything. Maybe you don't want to be open to everything. And it wasn't until then that I went, oh my God, I just kind of opened the door for anything that wants to walk in and express itself to be able to do that. She suggested, here's what I've learned to do. Maybe ask for your most illumined truth, and that's what will come through. It took me a while to get past that unsettledness with this, but now I see it for what it is. And I know I needed to be a little more guarded about my aura because I can connect to things other than that. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but now I understand that I can ask for the type that I want that serves us all for all of our highest good, not just mine. Lesson learned. So I'll, unless you have anything else, I'm willing to cut this short today. That's still, there's meat in here that others are going to enjoy. I'm going to be more mindful. This group is the one that's going to carry out the golden tie allotments, but we're not going to really blast it out there and go public. I'm still concerned about the way it's going to be received with the timelines that are included in it. I know we need to carefully dance around it. And I was chosen for this for a reason, all the more reason why I'm not going to step on my feet. So you're all here to assist with the process. I'm not always the smartest guy in the room, and I don't want to be. That's why you're all here to help lend your perspectives to how this is going to unfold. But I don't think there's anybody around here that disagrees. Everyone needs to know this.
Maybe you should, look at what you want to cover on the allotments, and then we make sure that we address them. So there's some type of learning, what you think is important for the week. So we're actually spending time studying that and moving forward with it. Maybe something like that would be great. I mean, going around and seeing what's on our mind, we can get sidetracked and distracted and all kinds of stuff. So
it was the people that I sent it out to was divinely inspired. And really, I didn't want to send that to you and tell you my interpretations. I really wanted to hear your perceptions of it. And like Paula said, I read through, but I got a lot of questions. Great. That's what I want to accomplish. Then we come back in a group and we start to address the things that we had questions or uncertainty about. Because as Paula also pointed out, this stuff is deep. There's a lot of stuff to just take in. You have to read 3 or 4 times to get the sensation of what is trying to be communicated. Once you resonate with that, then the knowledge just kind of flows out of it. But it was like reading the Emerald Tablets. For all of you that have done it, the first pass, it's all word salad. The golden tie wasn't really quite that for me. But even with advanced downloads that I've gotten, this was a lot to swallow. All the more reason why it's really important for me that I get it right, so that when we begin to communicate it, we do it in such a grounded and loving way that people aren't going to be alarmed by the period of time, that they're actually going to be excited that all of this shit that's around us, except those that don't want anything to change, what you've all been waiting for and what's all in your mind in terms of new earth and love and unity and compassion. Believe me when I tell you, we're this far away from it. And all of these things that we're trying to communicate are to help others prepare for it. That's it.
Lola, I remember on your last podcast, you said that you put some new information on your website and you were referring to. So maybe would you like to share your screen and just show people, what's new and what would you suggest to read?
Well, I did. I actually put I had gotten permission from Maya to post it on the website. And then over the weekend, I password protected it.
Oh,
Because I wasn't sure I wanted everybody to just kind of fall over it, find the information unsupervised. And so it's still a resource that's there for all of you, all of you. If you go to the home button on the web page and look where you would find the Ascension Handbook, just below that now, you'll see the golden tie-up information. It's in 5 different pages. The password for all of you, which is not a secret, is light-magic with a K at the end of magic. You're all welcome to access it. But I had, there was just something that said, it's not ready to be blasted out there publicly like that yet. It doesn't need to be a resource available to the rest of us. It came back as a resounding yes, yes, yes. But I think this is the way to go about it more properly. Now, that's not to say if you find some others that resonated with it, or let me rephrase, if you think there are others in your orbit that may, I would guide them to Gaia's YouTube videos first. Let them listen to her tell them. And then when they want to dig in deeper, now we have the resource and we'll be delighted to give it to them. I think that's an easier way to pass it. And it's just lovely to hear Maya tell her story anyhow.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So you're the Ascension Handbook, because to be honest, I was sort of late to the party on your website. I actually found this Zoom thing because I had a friend send me some images that you have of Brenda Earth. She goes, look at these beautiful images. I never put the 2 and 2 together that's from your website.
Well, some of those,
your website like a day ago.
Yeah. Oh, they're on there, but now I get this bug up my butt, and I've been having these like bi-location episodes, and they continue now to take me to enter. So that's when I get on the illustration program, and I just keep narrowing it down. Oh my God, this one's closer. And once you finally drill it down, holy crap, this looks like what I saw. So that's what those things become. And I had no expertise. This is not a simple thing to learn, but somehow divine guidance just loaded it in here in a 24-hour period. And I started knocking things out like that. I'm no artist, don't get me wrong, but I know how to, once you show me some technology, I got this.
Well, they're really, really astounding.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yes.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, if you go to the web page, you'll see on the navigation bar where it says home. If you click on home, below that, you'll see the Ascension Handbook and all of its pages. And then below that is Golden Tie in the submenus.
Okay, so I already have the Golden Tie allotments. I have that.
Yes,
but the
perfect.
Ascension Handbook, is that the Signs of Ascension, 12 stages? Not that? Something else?
No, that was kind of all compressed. There was 8 sections. I had gotten that document from Guides 2 years ago because I wanted to understand what Ascension was. Next day, somebody emails this to me and I never heard from the person again. So you could tell that this was done and ready for publication in 2012 by a guy named Master Tony. And it is awesome. It's certainly relevant to today. He just got the timeline on when he thought the shift was going to happen. Like many thought it was 2012. He had written this document with that in mind. But none of the rest of it is not, it's all leads up to explain what's going to take place in the shift. It's amazing, but it's another document that is going to take you a little while to digest, except those that resonate with it all, you're going to find validation after validation.
Okay. And then that's located, the handbook is located where? I can't seem to find it on the website.
Can you see the navigation bar where it says
Yep.
home?
Yep.
Click it.
Mm-hmm.
You should see a drop down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay. Thank you.
So there's a table of contents there, and then there's an individual page that there's 8 different sections.
Gotcha.
It's really, really good.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
It was so refreshing when I came across it, because you have all this new information, and reading through it, I'm like, oh, you could feel it, and it was like, oh, I just was just like craving this information. Thank you so much.
Good.
It was
I'm
really
so
cool.
excited to read that. Yeah. I'm excited.
And there's obviously there's just so much more than that handbook, but the handbook was so huge for me. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
reason-based, Paula. You will love it. It'll resonate with you because it draws reason out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because the golden tie allotments, I'm thinking, okay, but as I'm reading this, I'm getting vibrational benefit because it's like otherwise, whoo, everyone.
Yeah. Well, then it'll be good for you to back up and do the Ascension Handbook and read through it, because that was my basis of information. And I thought I had it dialed in, like I said. Now the golden tie allotments, dot I's and cross T's.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe one is supposed to follow the other then. All right.
In my mind, it's the sequence that made it understandable for me. And had I seen those documents in reverse, I would be scratching my head on the golden tie allotments too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where I need to put a little bit of time and more so than first.
It's
Wonderful.
a wonderful resource for everyone else that you meet after that thing. Because when they've got questions they want to start asking you, you can just point them to that resource.
Okay. Yeah, because I am Phil and Olga. I don't know how you got on this path, but I just felt like I was jumped in on it. And then I felt really alone. And then I got this message saying, don't worry, there's more people involved than you think. Just keep moving forward. But it was all June, July, August, September, October, must have been November that I finally felt like there were other people, a lot of other people actually. It's just not all over the TikTok and the YouTube, which is refreshing, Phil and Olga.
Well, I would kind of chuckle with my kids. You know, I went on TikTok just to kind of get updates on the Ukraine war, but when I open my TikTok, it's this just pure spiritual thread that I really enjoy. You know, it can be just a stupid daily positive thing. It can be someone going live talking about real, you know, ancestral karmic healing and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is like really good information.
Yeah, that's true.
I started. I said I would start maybe like 3 years ago, but I can certainly relate with the loneliness. There's not too many people to share it with, and you're so excited about sharing some of this new information. And most people, you know, they don't want anything to do with it. But since I came to this path, I watched the people around me, my conversations with my kids, brother-in-laws, close family. You know, we've all changed our conversation in the last 3 years. It's been cool.
Oh, that's
There
nice.
are others. And even for some of us that we look at, you know, I have 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old, you know, what role do they play in Ascension? You know, I was driving to work with my son the other day, and, you know, being raised Mormon LDS, which I know you guys, I kind of missed that conversation. I wanted to share with my kids what I'm learning and let them to know what I believe in now, you know, and kind of have those deeper conversations. It's been so refreshing and to kind of take it away from the religious umbrella of guilt, shame, and judgment and worthiness, and, you know, to be able to talk with my daughter and just be really conscious and aware of, you know, I'm not here to present guilt and shame. We're going to enjoy these lessons, and sometimes they're going to really suck. And, but you're not going to walk around with guilt and shame your whole life. Just anyway, trying to break some of the cycles, but
Right.
this path can be so tough, but it can be so rewarding and liberating as well. The information or having the information for me is just so helpful. Stuff I don't understand today, I know I will down the road and stuff I didn't understand 2-3 years ago. I understand today. And I'm not to that point where I get to just slow down and just not get so serious. I love the content. I love this group, but trying to go and have some fun and doing other things is really important. I was consumed at the beginning. I mean, it consumed my whole day of trying to get content, reading books, content, reading books. So, anyway.
That's important for you to point out for others to hear. Look, this experiment here on Earth was because Earth is a beautiful thing. And with the time you have remaining, I would enjoy every bit of it, because this is not going to be here that much longer. Not to say that what we're going to isn't even more magnificent, but Earth is magnificent now.
Yeah, it really is. You know, it is difficult because you know it could be so much better, but then if you walk around and you really look at your neighbors and you go to the park and you enjoy the trees and stuff, you say, what am I complaining about so much? This is great. But you know, I'm like, I need to lighten up on this a little bit, that, you know, we're not going down in a ball of flame, but I'll see kids playing and enjoying sports and with their families. But then on the way home, I'll drive by this massive children's hospital that's being built. And when I say massive, I mean, it's huge. It takes up several city blocks. And I think to myself, they're planning on putting kids in there for not good reasons. You know, we're living, like you said, that's a duality. It's like there's going to be people, you know, experiencing both. You experience the fun and the joy and seeing people have a good time. But then there's the other side where they've got so many hospitals and doctors, and the parking lots are always full with people that aren't going to be sick in the future. And, you know,
Part of the machine.
Yeah, you have to balance the thought process on it. It is a challenging place to be, but it's also very exciting and a time to be of great gratitude too, that you're on this side of it. Because I'm not perfect. I've not lived a perfect life at all. I think to myself, why am I among you guys? You know, I don't feel like the only thing I can say is many years ago, I had this concept of we can do a lot better than what we're doing. And that's the only thing I can think of must be running through my subconscious programming. Because other than that, I can't see why I'm with you. So I just can't.
You don't really appreciate whoever you really are then too, because that's a magnificent being too. You don't appreciate all the resources because they haven't been revealed to you again yet. But believe me, I'm telling you this with great certainty, you're about to get access to all of those resources again quite soon. Then maybe you'll really appreciate how magnificent you are and how unique and gifted each person is. I'm telling you, the universe's fabric is not complete without everybody.
Right. We all dovetail together to make something magnificent happen together, right?
Yeah, we're just so inclined to look at this incarnation and this body, and what we do here in this lifetime can only be that. And forget all the people that think when this life is over, we're just gone. I'm going to the dirt and I'm done. I don't know. I'm going to miss my family. It's not like that at all. Your soul is the immortal part of you. And if you focused on your being in your life through that lens, you'd look at it less from this third density model where you're riding in this biosuit and that's all I am. You are way more than that. And the whole universe is waiting for you to wake up and figure out what it is. You hold some special mastery. We just need to get to the bottom of it.
And so you see yourself ascending in this body, not transitioning. You see yourself passing and then moving, but not being reborn.
And the next form we take is crystalline. The seeds for that's already in your body, and you've been taking in that light for decades now. when the time comes and vibration and frequencies rise, the infrastructure in this body is already there to take you from carbon-based to crystalline. Then your light being takes form within that
without
structure.
reincarnating to the fifth. You'll be, I'm sure we're transitioning.
Transition, yes.
Yeah, you transition, which they say in the Talos book that's the more natural thing you do, is you evolve in this form into more. And then you choose the opportunity to move into another carnation somewhere else, right? But it's more choice-based, whereas we think we don't have a choice. I mean, obviously we are choosing, but we're not conscious of it.
Yes.
Then we start all over with all our memories, erased. So
wiped out. That's right. Yeah. I get great comfort in watching the generations behind us, especially the really young ones. You can tell that idea that they came into this incarnation with their memory banks wiped. I don't think that that's true, because look at all the wherewithal they have at such a young age, and we keep referring to them as kids. They are wise beyond their years. They didn't come as handicapped, and there's a reason for that too. They're here to teach us things and wake us up to things, and sometimes that's how it's going to reach the families from the bottom, because people in my age group, they're unlikely to really embrace the things that I understand now. They've just been conditioned in the way that they've been conditioned by the ones that conditioned them before. And I get that. But there's information that's been withheld from us for a long time. And here comes generations to show us that very thing.
Right. Yeah. That's true. The younger ones and they'll share their experiences of seeing UFOs, and they'll share it publicly. They don't, nobody thinks twice about it.
It's quite natural to them.
It is.
I'm sure. Well, remember when we were all kids, because even Phil had memories of, speaking star language when he was young, and tucked that away really quick because, no one does that. Here's evidence that, maybe that wasn't so far-fetched back then, because look at what's coming up now. That's not so strange. We just hadn't been put in an environment comfortable enough for us to pursue those things without expecting some kind of ridicule in return.
Right. I was speaking some language too, Phil, and I, of course, like, what are you doing? Make believing. I don't know where that came from and why I was doing it, but I just, so that's true.
Yes.
I feel for you. Like, I felt like an oddball. I'm still an oddball.
I am too.
Are you? Okay, that's good.
I am a goofy dude.
What'd you
All
say?
right, well, here's a good place to stop.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Then we're going to conclude here today. Thanks for showing up. There's stuff in here for other people too, and I'm going to go back and listen to this later, but thank you all for being here, and I'll see you later in the week.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thank you, Lo.
Have a good day.